We pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Kristen, could you go through the list of attendees, please?
Yes, so this is Kristen. I'm going to try to get everybody. There are a couple of people that are using some creative names. So if I'll go through and announce those, and if you wish to be known as something else for the purpose of the minutes, you may clarify that. So members in attendance this evening, we have Mike Beecher, John Malcolm, Bob Jones, Jessica Van Ort, and Rich Hewlett. Others in attendance, we have Kristen Powers, Olivia McChesney, #taxpayer. Do you wish to identify yourself as something else? Okay. Robert Morlino, Ely Anita Norman, Ken Norman, Lucy Norman, Joy Proft, Carla Crossman, Julie Mack, Fred Stone, Ken Norman, I had you twice, Sarah Post, Keith Mason, John Sabatka, Deb Hawkins, Colin Stabile, Rhonda Schlangen, Maureen Brown, Paul and Michelle Tillander, John and Val Davis, Bob and Martha Schoeneman, Mara Hurst, Jonas Rosenthal, Jennifer Sullivan. I see we have Ray. I tried to get people as you were coming in. Mary Ellen Norton is about to be joining the group. Somebody named Daw, D-A-H, is here this evening. Welcome. WCBS is about to be entering the room. And I think that's all. Is there anybody who I did not get this evening that wishes to be included for the minutes? Thank you, Mike. I think that's all.
Okay, great. Tonight's meeting will start with the public hearing. We'll see the accompanying notice. Jessica, would you care to address this to go through these changes, please, since you're the most versed in this?
Sure, I can give an overview of what we're doing. There are very few changes to these bylaws. Oh, this is Jessica. There are very few changes to these bylaws from the 2017 version. The few changes that we have made, two of them were required by Vermont laws that have been passed since 2017. So one is a change to the section on accessory dwelling units. By state law, they can no longer be a conditional use. They are permitted use in all areas that single family dwellings are allowed. So we moved them out of conditional uses and into their own little spot. And we did make some edits to the definition of accessory dwelling units. This is all to make accessory dwelling units we're loosening up the rules on accessory dwelling units per the state's guidance. The other major change, not a major change, the other change we did per state guidance was to multifamily dwellings, just changing a little bit of language about multifamily dwellings. And then the other change that we did, which has been in the works for several years, is to add a definition for a commercial school, such as like a karate school or some sort of school, a driving school, something like that, and put it into as a conditional use in several of our zoning districts. We were planning to put in a definition of school also, but then it was brought to our attention that schools, along with a number of other types of buildings, like critical infrastructure buildings and houses of worship, do not require the permitting process from the town because they are regulated, schools in particular are regulated by the state. So this would be public and private schools that are regulated by the state. We actually can't do much with zoning them. So we have language in the bylaws that says as much. So we didn't end up rewriting any definitions of school because that's not our purview as as a town. So those are the changes that were made. The reason that we are bringing this up again with so few changes made to it is because the 27 bylaws, while properly adopted and warned, and many of you who are here were at those hearings, somehow the appropriate paperwork did not make its way to the Natural Resources Board. And so in a way, this is a redo. I'm going to make sure personally that they get the paperwork that they need so we can finally make the transition to a 10-acre town for the purposes of Act 250. And if anyone wants to hear a little bit more about 1-acre towns and 10-acre towns, please ask. I've given that spiel a whole bunch over the past couple weeks. That's it for me.
Okay, so maybe the best thing would be if we could read these changes. Do you have them in front of you? I didn't have them brought up in front of me, but would it be possible for you to just read the amended version, please?
Can, and give me 1 second to pull them up. I didn't know I was going to need to do
Sure.
this. And also, Kristen, can you allow me to share screen?
Yes, hold on one moment.
Thank you. Luckily, I have them in a folder.
Thank you.
Jessica, this is Kristen. I
Yes.
am going to make you the co-host.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm just pulling up the document right now, and I can scroll through it. All the changes are in yellow, so I can read the changes. And all of you who are not on phone will also be able to see them. Okay, let's try this. All right. Hopefully this is pulled up so that everyone can see it. All right. So the first changes are in the zoning district regulations. District 5, industrial, District 6, village and commercial, and District 7. In all of those zones, the only change is that we added school commercial to the conditional uses for each of those. So let's see if I can scroll down a little faster here. There we go. All right, yeah, so you'll see here in industrial, we have added under conditional uses a commercial school. Same thing with village and commercial. Here it is. And same thing with agriculture and rural residential. There's commercial school. Okay. Next change might be a little ways down. Oh, here's multifamily dwelling. All right, let me read this one out. So this is in the conditional uses section, section 4. There were already 3 conditional requirements, and the 4th one is now as follows. A multifamily dwelling consisting of 4 or fewer units located in a district allowing multifamily dwellings may not be denied solely due to an undue adverse effect on the character of the area affected. So this is when a multifamily dwelling goes in front of the DRB. The DRB is not allowed, this is by state law now, to deny it just because they say it will have an adverse effect on the character of the area. They can deny it if it has other problems, but they can't deny it just for that. All right. Let me take a moment to go down to the next one. There's nothing in this area. All right, there we are. Here's the section on accessory dwelling units. This is section 23 in, gosh, which part is this? In the, it's the general regulations. And it says accessory dwelling units, ADU. Sorry, this is jumping around. This language is changed a bit from what we had previously. Here's what it reads now. Accessory dwelling units are a permitted use in every district in which single-family dwellings are a permitted use. An accessory dwelling unit means a distinct unit that is clearly subordinate to a single-family dwelling and has facilities and provisions for independent living, including sleeping, food preparation, and sanitation, provided there is compliance with all the following. 1, the ADU must be located within or appurtenant to a single-family dwelling or on an owner-occupied lot. 2, a single-family dwelling may have only one ADU. 3, the property to which the ADU is appurtenant must have sufficient wastewater capacity. 4, the unit must not exceed 30% of the total habitable floor area of the single-family dwelling to which the ADU is appurtenant, or 900 square feet, whichever is greater. And 5, a single-family dwelling with an accessory dwelling unit is subject to the same dimensional and setback requirements as a single-family dwelling without an accessory dwelling unit. And then there will be 2 more changes, which are in the definition section at the very end, in which we define a commercial school and we define an accessory dwelling unit. Almost there. Here we are. Definition of accessory dwelling unit. A distinct unit that is clearly subordinate to a single-family dwelling and has facilities and provisions for independent living, including sleeping, food preparation, and sanitation. And then we have the final thing, the definition of commercial school. Here we are. Commercial school, comma, commercial. Any type of instructional building, area of property, or function on a property in any zone within the town of Pawlet that is not certified by the Department of Education, where the operation is a private, commercial, licensed, or otherwise registered business within the state of Vermont. All right, that is me reading them out. I'm going to briefly unshare this so that we can see everybody's faces again, and I can share it again if there are specific things we need to return to.
Okay, that was excellent. I think you did a great presentation. Does anybody in the audience have any questions on any of these changes that are proposed to the select board to approve tonight?
Reactions and put your hand up.
Mike, this is Kristen. Bob and Martha Schoeneman have a question.
Okay, Bob and Martha, go ahead.
I have 2 quick questions. The state used to say if the appurtenant building is attached to the main dwelling, then that could use the existing septic system. If it was not connected, then an additional septic system would have to be approved. Now, that's all under the state regulations, right?
Mm-hmm. This is Jessica. As of the most recent regulations that I got from the Rutland Regional Planning Commission from the state, it just says they need sufficient wastewater capacity. It doesn't specify which septic it's connected to.
I see. Okay. And then as a commercial school, isn't that generally even if it's private, isn't that regulated by the state as far as what the septic has to be and that kind of thing? I mean, can anybody start a school, a commercial school for profit?
Jessica, would you care to explain on that? Or
Well,
the commercial school has to meet the DRB, correct?
Yes, this is Jessica. The commercial school would be a conditional use and would have to go through the DRB. They would also have to go through any required state licensing. So say I wanted to start a dance school, right? I would have to get a business license from the state. I would have to pay state sales tax on the services I provided and do any required state licensing for my field. The part that the town would be involved with would be giving the permit for like the structure and the change of use on the land. So like my barn that I have, if I wanted to start teaching dance lessons in my barn, I
Mhm.
would then need to go through the conditional use for that. I do not know the answer to the question of if the state requires particular septic things for like a dance school or an artist school, right? I do not know that.
They would all be regulated by the state, so you would have to get the appropriate state permits for any type of septic system for new construction in town.
Mhm.
Okay, so if a school had people coming to it and they needed a sanitation facilities, you'd have to do through Act 250 or through the state, you would have to do perk tests and get approval that the soil could meet the
Yes,
regulation.
that's correct, Bob. The state has all guidance over sewer systems.
Okay. So there's a lot of areas that would not meet state regulations for a septic system. And including if you had a private school that a lot of people came to, if you didn't have a septic approval, you couldn't have the school, right?
Right, that's correct.
Okay. That's basically what I wanted to affirm.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jessica and Mike.
you're welcome. Is there any more questions
This is
from the
Frank.
audience? Go ahead, Frank.
I'm on the road, so I'm on the phone. And Jessica did a great presentation of what the Planning Commission had gone through to build in some fixes and some necessary language that the state was requiring to basically brush it up. The Planning Commission going forward will be looking at some more details that I had commented about relative to these changes, but we didn't go into them on this particular round, and has to do with planned unit developments and a bunch of things relative to whatever the state's intentions are on certain uses. And so we're going into that next as part of the energy enhancement plan and maybe dovetail it side by side, but that's up to the members of the Planning Commission how they want to do it. But there is, so if anybody has any concerns going forward, there potentially may be a round two, but they should come forward to the Planning Commission and come to the meetings and participate in that process. But right now, this is what we need to patch some holes in the tire for sure. Okay? Thank you.
Great, thank you, Frank. Is there anybody else in the audience that has any questions or comments? Is there anyone on the board that has any questions or comments for Jessica or John on the Planning Commission?
His hand up.
Bob Cinnamon has his hand up again.
Pause. Sorry.
Go ahead, Bob.
One other question is, as far as enforcing the zoning, who is in charge of enforcing zoning? I mean, if it's a state regulation, the state would have jurisdiction of making sure that was the requirements were met, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. That's my main question. Enforcement of the
Okay.
regulations depends on whether they're town zoning, or if they morph into state regulations, then the state would have overseeing the enforcement of regulations, correct?
That's correct, Bob.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Ray?
Yes, with Bengay on 541 Briar Hill Road, he's been working off of a permit from Mike Dunbar for his water permit. And that permit that Jonas
Ray,
gave the other day,
Ray, I appreciate you bringing this up, but we have to stay focused on these changes to the bylaws. You're going off subject, and we need to go through this. We can talk about that subject later. But right now, the whole topic is these amendments to the bylaws, and then we'll go into our normal meeting.
well, this is exactly what the problem is. This is a part of the bylaws, and I want to know how anybody can function without adhering to the bylaws when they have a wastewater water permit for a piece of property for one single family, two bedroom.
Right. This is not part of this discussion right now.
Really?
Yes, this
Okay, well,
discussion, this
okay.
discussion is about these zoning amendments to the zoning bylaws. Not a particular instance that has some issues that we have to deal with in a different way. As soon as we get done with these, there's plenty of meeting left. We can talk about your instance and how we can deal with that we've been working on for many years. Okay? Is there any questions from anyone on the select board regarding the adoption of these amendments to the zoning bylaws? Is everybody, if everybody's okay with these amendments, would somebody like to make a motion that we accept these amendments?
This is Jessica. I move that we accept these amendments.
Okay, Jessica has a motion. Do I have a second?
Mike, this is Rich. I'll second that.
Okay, Rich made a second on these proposed changes to the zoning bylaws. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Rich,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous then. So the proposed bylaw changes goes to the next level, which means that you send them to the state or the Rutland County, correct? Jessica?
Yes. Jonas and I have a checklist and we'll continue to move on down that checklist to make sure everything's done.
Great, thank you
Thank-
very much for.
Yes,
You
and
with
thank
the
you
zo-
to the
and
rest of the select board for getting this done. Thank you so much.
And all the planning commission for your hard work on this process. Thank you. All right, so now we move on to the regular meeting. Is there any addition or deletion of agenda items?
Yes, this is Kristen. There are only 2 formal additions to the agenda this evening that had been requested. Bob Morlino is here with us this evening and wants to go over several items with the board. So that would be within the appearances by local citizens and visitors section. There are also several emails that have come in to the board, to the email throughout the week of folks that are sending things. Only 1 or 2 people have formally requested that they be discussed here tonight. And that's all I have for additions, no deletions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Has everybody looked the minutes over? Did they find anything that they felt needed to be corrected or changed, or are we good with them? I didn't hear anything, so I'm assuming we're all good. Somebody want to make a motion? We accept the minutes?
John will.
Okay, John made a motion. Do I have a second?
Mike, this is Rich. I'll second that.
Okay, Rich, thank you. We have a motion made at second to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All in favor, Rich,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
yes, John,
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, minutes approved. Pre-requested, Kristen, is there any pre-requested appearances?
Yep, this is Kristen. Bob Morlino is here this evening with us.
Okay, yeah, tried to skip right over him. Go ahead, Bob.
Hi, everyone. Most of you know who I am, but for those that don't, I'm the Emergency Management Director for the town and the town health officers as well. 2 items I want to bring up to the board. One is the annual the annual emergency management, local emergency management plan for the town. This requires an annual update and an annual approval from the board and a signature, which Mike, we can do electronically, a signature from the chair of the select board. Can I share my screen, Kristen?
Yep, hold on one sec.
All right.
I've made you the co-host and that should give you the power.
I have the power. Okay. Can you all see that?
No.
It takes, I think, a minute or two to pull up. Does anybody see that slide?
Do not see it, no.
Huh. Hold on. Oh, okay. Now I see why.
There you go.
Yep. So the first thing I want to talk about is I don't have to really talk about it, but the adoption of the local emergency management plan. You've all received a copy. That is, the select board should have received a copy. And the first question I have, does anybody have any questions about the plan? By the way, the updates were just adding Jessica and Rich and their telephone numbers and that information. There were other telephone numbers that needed to be updated. But there are no other substantive changes from 2020. But again, I just want to open it up for any questions anyone has regarding the local emergency management plan. Okay, I guess there's no questions. The other one is the adoption of the Rutland Regional Planning Commission Public Works Mutual Aid Agreement. We went through this last year for the first time. This there's an annual update as well, and Keith Mason understands what this is all about, and we just need to adopt what we adopted last year. And I don't know if there are any questions regarding the Public Works Mutual Aid Agreement. So what I need is a vote of the select board that you agreed to the adoption of the local emergency management plan and the adoption of the Rutland Regional Planning Commission Public Works Mutual Aid Agreement. So if you could have a motion and approve that. These are the two signings that will essentially occur because it's electronically now. I put Mike Beecher's name in both of these, which you can see here. And I put today's date. So I will send these in, assuming you all agree to the adoption of these two documents.
So right now, we're ready to make a motion then, Bob?
Yes, that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay.
Mike, this is
Does anybody
Bob. I'll
have
make
any
that
questions?
motion.
Okay, Bob made a motion. Is there a second out there?
Jessica will second.
Jessica will second the motion to approve both of these plans of mutual aid agreement and the emergency management agreement. And I will sign them and send them back to Bob.
Yeah, actually, you don't have to actually sign them, Mike. With the COVID situation, I can just send this in as long as you have made a motion. They're accepting this as a signed agreement.
Okay, so that sounds great. So
Okay.
all in favor, Rich,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, motion made and approved. Bob, you can send that right in.
Okay, the last one is the E911 map change. Oh, that's another hat I have is the E911 coordinator. And that involves what's called the E911 map. The E911 people have asked me to just mention and to the select board and inform the select board that they would like to make a change here. And here's the change. If you look at this map here, this is Pawlet right here, and you'll see there's a line through Pawlet, right? And that's our two emergency service districts, at least as far as the fire districts are concerned. The law enforcement district is the whole town, and the EMS district is one district. We have two fire districts because we have two fire departments. Historically, what has happened, many years ago when this E911 map was put together for the town of Pawlet, for some reason, they put in two separate maps, a West Pawlet map and a Pawlet map. And you can see here's the Pawlet map. There's pages behind here. So the Pawlet map would have page 2, 3, 5, 6, 11, 12, and so on. Then there's a West Pawlet map. It would have maps 1, 2, 4, 5. These all overlap, of course, because the district line runs, the fire district line runs through these. The long and short of this is the E911 board wants to make there should be one Pawlet map. It still would show, when you pulled it up, you would still show the two separate fire districts, but there'd be one map for the town. If you look at, for instance, Dorset has two fire districts as well. They have East Dorset Fire District and the Dorset Fire District. There is only one map for the town of Dorset. There should be only one map for the town of Pawlet. The E911 board actually has the authority to just go ahead and do this. It has no effect on anybody in town except anybody who wants to print out the maps for the town of Pawlet, which I do for my own use as emergency management. I have to end up printing two separate maps and then collating them and putting them together. The E911 board also has to put together two maps. There really should be one map for the town. And they told me that we're the only town that has this unusual construction. And it probably goes back to probably 20 years ago when they put E911 maps together. For some reason, we ended up instituting two separate maps for the town. There are, let me just tell you, there are a few towns that do have two separate maps, but those are the only ones that have two separate maps are the towns which, when they started E911, they were two separate towns to begin with and then joined later on. And the reason they continue to have two maps is because they have numerous streets with the same names in both sides of their now incorporated town. So there might be an Elm Street here and an Elm Street there, a Main Street here and a Main Street there. So they end up having two separate maps for that town. But towns like ours, there is no other town in the state of Vermont that has two separate maps like we do. So again, the long and short of it is they want to do one map. The reason I'm bringing it up at the select board meeting is they asked me to do so, and they just wanted to inform the select board. And of course, if the select board had some reason why they wouldn't want to do this, I could go back to them and say, hey, they really don't want to do this. You don't need to make a motion about it, actually, because as I said, the E911 board has the authority to go ahead and do this by themselves. They probably wouldn't if there was some reason to oppose it. But again, it's really informational unless somebody has some strong feelings one way or the other. Personally, I would recommend we have one map for the town, emergency E911 map for the town. But again, I open it up for any discussion.
Anybody have any questions?
John has a question.
Yeah, John.
How does it work now and with the one map? Like, I've got a mile of frontage on Chet Clark Road in both sides of the thing. What happens if there's emergency right in the middle of Chet Clark Road? How do people know which side they can come up and which side they can't?
Yeah, it doesn't change any of that, John. This
Okay,
this change it's a little bit unusual. All this change does is if somebody wants to print an E911 map for the town of Pawlet, there'll be one map for the whole town. But here, the emergency service district stays the same. We're not changing any emergency service district where the line is. So when a dispatcher pulls up the map for the town of Pawlet, it pulls up both of these, okay? And then they look on where the address is, and that's how they deter for fire department purposes. For law enforcement and EMS, it doesn't make any difference. But for fire department purposes, they pull up this map on their screen. They see where Chet Clark Road is and where it is on this map. That's they call the West Pawlet Fire Department in one part of Chet Clark Road. They'll call Pawlet for the other part of Chet Clark Road for a fire call. Now, as it turns out, of course, here in Pawlet, if there's a daytime fire call on Chet Clark, either side of Chet Clark Road, both fire departments are going to be responding anyway.
but they can't come over the mountain because there's a mile of class 4 road that's barely passable.
No, the West Pawlet would come from the West Pawlet side. If the structure fire were on the West Pawlet side, Pawlet would have to go all the way around.
They would know that. Okay.
Oh yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we know.
Well, I meant 911 would know that.
No, 911 wouldn't know that. They would just tone us out. They don't tell us how to get there. They just tone us out and they give us an address. We determine how we're going to get there. We mean the fire department.
Well, there probably won't be any structures because there aren't.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe 2 hunting camps.
Yeah, it doesn't change any of the response agencies, what they do now or what they do. This is really just a cleaning up the E911 map for Pawlet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or any other issues with that? Kristen, if you could just put in the minutes to the meeting that this was the E911 map, consolidating the E911 maps to one for the town of Pawlet, that the select board's been informed and there's been no opposition to it. So if that's in there, then I can show that to the E911 people and we'll be set to go.
This is Kristen. I got it. So long as we hear no other opposition, I'm on it.
Okay. I'll stop share. If there are any other questions for me regarding emergency management or health officer, I'm open to any questions. Okay.
Sounds like you're good, Bob.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Kristen, do we have any announcements?
This is Kristen. No announcements this evening.
Okay. Reports, zoning administrator reports.
Okay, so for the Bonnier permit, we did receive an appeal. A letter went out April 14th to the applicant stating that we did receive an appeal. And so that the DRB has to hold a hearing within 60 days of that appeal, of the 14th, April 14th. A couple of things. I have two applications waiting for me tomorrow. Two zoning applications, one for garage, another for dwelling. With respect to some of the questions that Mr. Duquette raised, so the court order from the environmental court order, Mr. Bonnier had 30 days. I'm sorry, what? Okay, so he had 30 days to contract with a licensed surveyor to put a site plan together for all of the structures that are on the site. So within those 30 days, he had asked for a 30-day extension. So that extension takes it up to May 5th. And he's either going to have a contract in hand from a licensed surveyor, or he will appeal, or he could appeal the environmental court's earlier decision. So that's up in the air. So as far as wastewater, Mr. Duquette asked the question about whether he's in compliance, I believe was the question, or how do we assess the wastewater system or permit application. The court order, I don't believe addressed wastewater. I think it addressed just zoning. We should maybe ask for a clarification from our attorneys to see whether they should map that out in the site plan. When a state issues a permit, they issue it based on the design and the capacity for the system. And normally a 3-bedroom house is 450 gallons per day or 150 gallons per day per bedroom. I don't know what the state permit said, and I don't know when it was received. You have to look at the conditions of the permit and then ask the state if I don't know if the licensed engineer who designed the permit is required to submit a report to the state that the system was installed to the conditions of the permit. So that's certainly worth looking at, or asking Water Wastewater Division to see if that occurred. But that was not the scope of the zoning violation. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
Does anybody have any questions for the zoning administrator? Okay. Thank you for your report, Jonas.
Okay.
Planning Commission.
This is Jessica. There's no report. Our meeting is next week.
Okay, thank you. Road Foreman's report.
Keith, you are muted. I've invited you to unmute.
How about now? All right, we've been steady with our spring grading for the past 2 weeks. That's what we've been doing, and other than some winter cleanup and adjustments and servicing the equipment. So that's pretty much what we've been steady with. I did meet with Stephanie, that met with John and Jessica and I from the Regional Planning Commission, and we did a pre-construction visit on the Kelly Hill Road, and it looks like that's gonna come forward for us. A little bit of funding anyway through the grants and aid program. It'll be if we spend 17,000, they'll give us 14 of it, so that'll be good. And I applied for a blacktop grant. because the deadline was the 15th April. So I put it in for the Danby Pawlet Road. We'll have to see if we get the grant or how much we get, and we can adjust and make a decision at that time whether that's where we spend our blacktop money or not. But if we do get the grant, that's definitely where it should go. Other than that, I guess that's it.
Anybody have any questions for Keith? Okay, I got a question for you. Oh, Ken, you got your hand up, Ken?
Yeah, I had a question. Switch Road, when it's wet, is on the east end is impassable. In four-wheel drive, you're all over the road. When it was wet last week, packed down now, it's better. But is there the east end of Switch Road getting done this year?
No, it's not on the docket. I can't believe we'll get there.
All right. Well, usually when it's wet, I go through Granville because it's just not worth going this way. So,
Yeah, on a fresh grade job with 2 inches of rain, we kind of expected that to happen, especially on a road like that doesn't have basically anything for good material. And now that it's sealed down, if we can keep it sealed down, it'll be better.
all right, thank you.
Breathe. He's got to breathe. I told him you didn't cause it.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Keith?
John does.
John, go ahead.
I was wondering about the speed signs. Keith was gonna check as far as the state contract, if we could get a state price for those speed.
Oh, those are not listed in their equipment purchases, John. So it's not something that they've been routinely putting out to the state bid. So no, I had no luck with any of that through the central purchasing. So.
Okay, thank you.
Are you working on getting the other signs that we talked about, Keith?
Which ones?
There was one over by Richie's, the farm there, and I think there was another sign that somebody had questioned.
The road signs we had, we've put back up. Yeah, the switch
Okay.
road and Betts Bridge Road and some others. Yes, we've got those all back up that were.
Okay. The one had graffiti on it over by the farm there.
Yeah, we switched that out the next morning. So.
Okay. All right, good. Now, the other thing, I noticed that by the old Kramer farm, that ditch from the end of the barn that heads down toward Sylvia's houses is quite full again. And it looks like the new residents are trying to make some water run in there. So I'm wondering if we could get that scraped out before it becomes a mess there.
Yeah, I'll look at that. That can be a mess if it gets overflowing for sure.
Yeah, it's all silted up and it looks like they've been working in it a little bit to try to keep the water flowing. So I was just hoping you could fit it into your schedule so you could get there before it turns into a mess all over the road. So thank you. Anything else that anybody has to ask for Keith? Paul Tylander? Go ahead, Paul. Okay.
This is Kristen. Paul, you are muted. However, I have requested that you unmute. There should be a little button with the mic. There you go.
Okay, it's me again. It's
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle.
I just wanted to say thanks to Keith for switching out that sign down by Deer Flats Roads. That's that garbage. I don't know who put it there, but we don't tolerate that here in West Pawlet or at Pawlet. So thank you, Keith.
You're welcome.
Everybody else is good with Keith? All right. So then by the beginning of next month, you'll be starting to work on the Herrick Brook Road pretty much full time then, Keith, you figure?
That's where we'll be devoting our time there, and we'll have to work these other little things in between now and then. So.
Okay.
We had 2 good weeks, so we're well ahead of our grading schedule right now. Some of them will need some other attention, but some of them will hold together and be good, I think. So we're we're well on our way. So,
Okay. Maureen, you have your hand up?
I'm wondering what the stop sign, the graffiti on the stop sign said.
I didn't happen to see it.
Who knows what the graffiti on the stop sign said?
This is Kristen. It was an inappropriate slur.
It was the N-word.
As I did not see it myself, but as far as I know, yes.
that's what it was, yes.
Thanks, Ken.
Anybody else have any questions for Keith? Okay, thank you, Keith. Do we have a report from the assessors?
This is Kristen. No report was submitted for this meeting. Unsure if any word from the liaison. John, had you heard anything from the assessor's office?
I've not.
Okay, so no, Mike, no report at this meeting.
Okay, thank you. And the town clerk had just a very teeny little story. Is she here tonight? Is Deb here? I didn't.
Yes, I am.
Okay, Deb.
Yep, just that there's some fleet permits to sign. They're on the table, and also a reminder of next Tuesday, a Board of Abatement meeting and a Board of Civil Authority meeting. A Board of Abatement meeting requires a quorum of the full membership. So the more, the merrier. A Board of Civil Authority is a quorum is a majority of those present, but the abatement needs to be a majority of the full membership. So we need about 9 members to be present to make a quorum for that meeting. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say unless anybody has any questions for me.
One thing that you did ask, and I'm going to ask Bob right now. Bob, would you look at the pile of mail that's building up and see if there's anything that we really need to address that hasn't been addressed yet when you swing into to sign paperwork and stuff, please?
Yes, I will, Mike.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for the town clerk? I guess not. Well, thank you very much, Deb. Have a good night.
Thank
Town treasurer?
Hi.
Hi, Julie.
Not a lot from me. The 2 warrants, payroll was $9,032.38. Accounts payable was $30,825.37. General fund monies, $12,254.54. The highway was $21,882.68. Wastewater was $5,254.53. We have received this month from Vermont $894 towards the hold harmless, $818 for equalization payments, $83.50 for fine reimbursements, and the highway fund received their quarterly state aid payment of $24,620.36. And that's all.
Okay. Everybody's had a chance to look the warrants over. Was there any questions on any of the warrants? No.
This is Jessica.
Somebody like-
I move with it. We approve the warrants.
Okay, do I have a second on Jessica's motion for the warrants?
Mike, this is Rich. I'll second that.
Okay, thanks, Rich. So we got a motion made and seconded to approve the warrants. All in favor? Rich?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
All right, motion passed. Thank you. Is there anything else on the treasurer's report that anybody had any questions or comments with? I guess not. All right, thank you, Julie. Emergency Management Director, which would have been the first month, so there's nothing this this week, Kristen? All right. And the health officer, same. Wastewater treatment facility. Right now, we have a problem with one of the chart recorders that records the flows. And I've gone back and forth with a couple of emails. Jill has had someone there to quote a new machine, either to see if we could fix it or to buy replace the entire unit. What they're finding is that the flow recorder is about $1,300 for the repair modules that are showing to be down from the top test that the representative did last Friday. One of the problems that I know from my experience, it's electronic recorders and stuff like that. Sometimes after quite a few years, which this one has been in there, that a couple of modules may go down, but it may also have some other compounding effects down the road that you can't test when you're first testing them out. So the second quote is for $4,260 is to replace the entire unit with a brand new one. I'm afraid that it's more, it makes better sense to just replace the complete unit, because I believe that other recorder is, I think she said it's original to the sewer plant, which was the 1980s. And I'm afraid that if we just try and fix the other one, we may end up with a less than satisfactory result. And there's really no sure bet to know that it won't just go down again soon if there's other components failing. So I think that the $4,260 quote is the right course of action to go. Does anybody have any comment that they'd like to weigh in on that?
Mike, this is Rich.
Okay.
I would agree with that, just for the simple fact being that if we can't get parts for that older one down the road, or whatever the case may be, I mean, it's a big issue and that's not working for Jill. And that thing you said was put in when, in the 1980s?
When the sewer plant was made, I believe it's original equipment, so.
Yeah, I would agree
sounds
with
like you make-
replacing.
Okay, so you're making a motion that we give Jill a go ahead to replace the entire unit?
I would make that motion
Okay, do I
after
have a
seeing the
second?
unit.
John
Do
will
I have a
second.
on? John will second that motion. Okay, Kristen, I can send you the quote so you can have it. And
Okay,
and then we could, but it'll be a quote to replace a chart recorder in the at the wastewater treatment plant for the cost of $4,260. And all in favor, Rich,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
yes. John,
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Um,
you.
this is Kristen, sorry. Does one of you also want to second the motion? I know you're all in favor, but would somebody like to volunteer to be the official?
John did.
John did? Okay, sorry, I was busy typing. Thanks, John.
Jack, yeah. And about the only other news about the sewer plant is last Friday, they were able to install the Wi-Fi hotspot. And unfortunately, Consolidated Communications Wi-Fi is down at the sewer plant. Jill has been pushing them to get it repaired, and they are less than satisfactory, in my opinion, on their internet and their service. But so that's what we're hooked with for now. And I did look around a little bit, and Comcast provides service in West Pawlet, and it's pretty pricey. The guy, I told him what we were doing, so the guy wanted to sell me the best possible option was $224 a month. So I told him that was ridiculously too expensive, so he'd better try harder. But it still looks like it's their cheaper option was still over 100, but I don't really understand how much internet you really need and et cetera and stuff like that. And I'm wondering, Julie, are you still there? Do you have any idea how much the phone bill is with the internet at the sewer treatment plant?
This is Julie. I don't off the top of my head, but if you give me a minute, I'll put it in the chat feature.
Well, okay, thank you. I guess what we got to do is just try and come up with some idea on what it is, and if we could get something more comparable that would be better service, I think there would be something we should look into now that we have that option down there.
Yeah, this is Jessica. I agree with you, Mike. Yeah, when I spoke to Jill to ask her, I had to ask her a few questions to pass on to the Wi-Fi hotspot people. And she said that the wireless had not been working for about 4 months. And I don't know if she had contacted them or if she wanted one of us to contact them to try to get Consolidated to get on it. But yeah, it seems like that's an ongoing problem with them and that their service is not good. I mean, I don't like Comcast either, but when I had to have them for a little while, their service at least was okay. You can get hold of somebody. They're a national place.
So yeah, I think Jill told me when I talked to her the other day that she was gonna keep on them to try and get some results.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think we should give a deadline for them to actually do something, and that if they don't, because now that we have this Wi-Fi hotspot, if we can't use it, what's the point? Mike, are there signs up that say it's there?
I didn't see any signs as of yet.
Okay, good. Because if they said that they were gonna have signs, so I don't know if they left them inside the wastewater plant or what, because it makes sense that they wouldn't put the signs up if it's not working yet, because that would be disappointing to people.
Right, they weren't able to tell if they could get all the way to the old train station parking lot, or if they could just get into the parking lot by, right directly across from the sewer plant. But he said he's hopeful that they may reach all the way over to the old station parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Julie has her hand up.
Hi. So I looked, Consolidated monthly bill is around $150, and that's phone and internet, but it's phone and internet at the West Pawlet's garage as well as the wastewater treatment plant. So if we're going to shop with Comcast, it might make sense to actually shop for all of what we have through Consolidated and see if that makes a difference on pricing.
Okay.
Because sometimes when you package things, you get a better deal.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, I may reach out to you in the next day or two and see if we can come up with a plan on what to ask for, at least, so that we're comparing the same. So thank you for that, Julie.
Sure.
And that's about it for the wastewater treatment plant. Does anybody else have any questions or comments regarding the treatment plant? Okay. Older unfinished business. Ray, you were talking earlier, and we'll come back to that right now, please, if you want to continue to your questions that you had from earlier tonight. Are you still there, Ray?
Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, Mike. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ray.
Okay. What's been done with 541 Briar Hill Road? Why did Jonas Rosenthal issue a permit for a building that was totally told by the court to be torn down? Where do we stand with all that? Is not
The
the
discussion
town
that we
in
had-
contempt of court now? for that?
The discussion we had with Jonas said that because
I can't hear
the
him.
permit stated, because the permit stated that it was a new building, that it didn't fall into the jurisdiction of what the court had already has said. So he's asked for, he's reached out to him to provide proof that that's not what he's doing, trying to get that, and he wants to do a site visit and I have not heard any knowledge of any information that he's received back from 541 Briar Hill. We've also have there's also there's a challenge against that permit appeal has been put in place. So that will now go through, the permit will be on hold until that has been gone through the process.
Okay, because I feel that that permit should be repealed, not appealed, but repealed from the town of Pawlet, because it was in a direct contempt of court from the judge on that building. It should have been repealed. We don't need to appeal it.
Okay, I understand that, but that's a question that I can't answer at this point.
No, I know that. You can't answer a lot of questions, and I've been going through this for 4 years.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Other old or unfinished business?
This is Kristen, Mike. There were no any other formal additional requests for old or unfinished business on the agenda for this evening. There were several emails which I had forwarded along to the board that had been sent to the polletselectboard@gmail.com email address pertaining to the ongoing discussion of the inclusivity statement for the town of Pawlet and West Pawlet. I recognize that several of those individuals are here this evening, so unsure of whether or not that is anything that anybody wants to discuss, as that's old or unfinished business. But formally, there was no further content requested for this portion of the meeting.
Maureen, you have your hand up?
I think are several of us who do want to make comments. Is this an appropriate time to do that, Kristen?
Mike?
Yes, that is part of the unfinished business, so
Okay, great.
It's appropriate.
Quick update. We do have a small group that's going to be gathering to work on a statement. I did talk to Rich yesterday and he emailed me a statement that Julie had worked on. However, I think that we need some clarity in that. I think that it basically states that we accept people who work in different business sectors and different jobs. It doesn't really address, kind of misses the mark, to be honest. So we have a group of people who have, been doing this type of work, who are going to be working on a statement as well as action steps that we can take, and we shall be, continually updating the board. I also, as I mentioned, had a conversation with Rich, and I am learning that there is a lot of, at least Rich doesn't really understand the concept of white privilege. And I think that it might be prudent to consider educating the entire board as far as inclusivity and equity goes. I'm guessing there's probably some funding out there that we could find. If not, I could probably find some free resources. And if that's not a possibility, I would be willing to do some type of teaching just to board members, because I'm not like an educate, you know, I'm educated in that, but I'm not an educator for that subject. But I am able to teach people in that way. I think that's all. No, I had something else I wanted to say. I was hurt and disappointed in what Rich said, the comments that he made on March 23rd. And I asked him to apologize, and he said that he wouldn't apologize and that he wasn't sorry for what the hurtful and offensive comment that he made during the March 23rd meeting. So I'm expressing my disgust and disappointment in that. That's all I've got.
Okay, so you said that you're making a group. How is this publicized that all townspeople can be involved in this group?
I've mentioned to people that anyone can get a hold of me. However, and we want it to be inclusive and welcoming. At the same time, there does need to be a certain level of education that goes with it. So people are welcome to come, but I did some organizing. I had a bunch of people who said that they were like willing and interested. And then I set out a poll for time, and I had very few people respond to that in comparison. You know, I think it's everybody's, I don't know why, to be honest. So
Did you put it on the town website?
Would you like me to? I'd be happy to do that.
I think that's very important. And one thing I don't quite understand is that you just made a comment that you want to make sure that the people on your board have the appropriate education. I don't understand exactly where you're going with that. What exactly do you mean by that?
Sure. I guess this kind of work can re-traumatize people. So I guess it's not, you know, necessarily education. I want people to come in a way that they're not going to be making hurtful comments. And if they do make hurtful comments, are willing to be open-minded and learn and understand where that's coming from and change that. Because honestly, this process already has been extremely painful for me. And, you know, as a person who's willing to do the work and as a person who has the knowledge to do the work, I'm willing to do that, but I'm also not willing to get hurt over and over again by.
Well, it sounded to me like you're setting up a board of all people likes. I mean, this whole town is very diverse the way it is, but it sounds like you're setting your board up to suit your needs.
Would you like to join? Would you like to join? I mean,
I'd like to know a lot more about it. That's for sure.
That's great. I was, when I called Rich yesterday, I was wondering why I hadn't received a phone call from him. He said he talked to over 100 people and I didn't receive a phone call. And I've been, with the exception of the last meeting, I've been showing up to every single select board meeting. So I just like, you know, I've put my phone number out there. I've told different select board members like that I am available to call me, that I want to participate. So, I mean.
Okay, so what I think the next step would be is that we should establish a time and a day that all people in this town that are interested in this discussion should set up a Zoom meeting.
That's great. I agree.
So if you could work.
I agree with that.
If you could work with us.
Excuse me. I agree with that, but I also know that I and other citizens have the right to organize without like the town saying that you know, that we can have a formal committee. Perfect. Organize one, do the labor and organize one. I, as a resident, can organize with people who have a common goal on my own, and I don't need your permission to do that.
Okay, so I guess we just need to establish what type of organization it is. Mara, you have your hand up. Would you like to make a comment on this?
I would, thanks. Yes, my name's Mara Hurst. I live in West Pawlet. And first, I just want to say thank you to all of you, and also especially to Maureen for bringing this conversation up, and just for being honest in this conversation. It's really hard to have these types of conversations, and I'm joining because I'm concerned that there seems to be already a lot of tension around this conversation, which to me is a red flag that this is an important conversation for our town. I want to echo Maureen that I think that, you know, I was one that wrote an email to the board this past week, last week. I think it was Friday maybe, or nope, I think it was last Tuesday. I did receive a response from Kristen, but I know there were a couple other people that wrote and haven't heard anything. I know that was just a week ago and you all are very busy. But I think that from my perspective, it sounded like the town in previous meetings has discussed maybe forming a committee, but there wasn't any action yet. So I think that, as Maureen said, there's every right to have this conversation. I would be really pleased to see the town talking about this on the website and posting that this is something that is happening and that the conversation is being had. And if the town wants to help promote that discussion, that would be fabulous, in my opinion. I think we have a lot of work to do to get input from as many people as possible. And I also would just like to say that since a small group of us was planning to meet to just do a draft of a statement that we could sort of share as a starting point, I'm hoping that we could get this item on the official agenda so that more people maybe see that this is something that's being talked about. Just seems like it's something that's hard to talk about for a lot of people. And it's, as Maureen said, I think it's really important, as I can't see all of you because I'm on my phone, but and I might not know all of you and how you identify yourselves, but as somebody who is white and identifies as the gender that I was born as, identified with by my parents, it's my privilege to not have to think about this conversation. And maybe a lot of us aren't well versed in this conversation. And I think Maureen's right that we have to come into this with like a really open mind and kindness and not defensiveness. I'm already hearing that in people's voices, including a little bit my own. And just an awareness that, like, for somebody who doesn't have the privilege that maybe somebody like me has, this conversation can be really traumatizing and harmful. And so, yeah, I just want to bring attention to that and set that intention in the conversation moving forward. But I do look forward to being a part of this continuing discussion, and thank you.
All right, thank you. Julie Mack has her hand up.
Yes. Hi, this is Julie. A couple of things. I didn't hear anywhere in this conversation that anyone was requesting that a group of citizens not form committees and have discussions. Didn't hear it. Clearly did not hear it. There is a difference between a group of citizens forming to have discussions about difficult topics and elected officials forming committees to do official business of a municipality. Those are two different things. And I think you have to decide what you want, but you cannot demand that your citizen group be populated by town officials and then also not publicly share it and allow every single town person to join in or committee and speak freely. So that's very important clarification. that we need to make. This is an incredibly important issue that we need to address. I do not deny that. I do not deny that there is defensiveness in all of us as we speak. But I can tell you that there are people you will reach. There are people you don't need to reach because they're already there. And there are people in the middle. And you will not meet people in the middle with anger and finger pointing accusations. It does not work that way. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Maureen, your hand's back up.
I'm happy I would be delighted if the board took the time to do the organizing and the scheduling and making, of a group. That would be, and creating the space and providing the Zoom link and all of those things of an official committee. I think that would be great. I hadn't heard anything from the select board as far as the formation of a committee. So, so we're organizing as a group of citizens to create a proposal to propose to the board, which is an organized way for citizens to make the changes that we would like to see in our community. I agree. There's a difference between the two. And I also agree. I also agree that this has to be done in a careful way, but I do want to say that there are certain people who have a certain amount of stake in this work that for them to get upset and emotional is going to happen, and for someone to not accept that and allow that and tell somebody that that's wrong, that the emotion and the passion behind this type of work to express that is wrong, because there are very specific and very personal reasons why I do this work, and if I didn't have emotions behind it, I wouldn't have the energy to keep pushing forward. And I'm not going to apologize for getting upset, and I'm not going to apologize that we have a system of oppression that I keep fighting against, that people keep pushing back. I'm not going to apologize for that.
Okay. Well, thank you for everything you've done so far. Sarah Post, you have a hand up?
Hi, sorry. Sarah Post, I'm in West Pawlet. I just would like to, the reason I'm here, I'd like to formally request that our select board start a committee and do exactly what everyone is describing, and make it public and invite people, and we need to start having the conversations. And there's not a town in this country that does not need to have this conversation. Some towns are further along than others. Some are not having the conversation at all. And I just applaud all of us for getting it started. I applaud Maureen for bringing it up, for Julie for saying it's important, and for everyone to taking the time to be here tonight. I want to be on the committee, and I look forward to the invite. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Jessica?
I saw Kristen had a hand up. I'll let her go first.
Kristen?
Hello, this is Kristen. Jessica, I just wanted to offer my services for if and when it is decided upon that the town becomes involved with establishing meetings and aiding in communication. To echo what Julie said, to a certain point, there are certain state required rules and regulations that are associated with the gathering of elected officials. that meaning if the entirety of the select board gathers at any one point in time, it needs to be warned as a special select board meeting if it is outside of the biweekly Tuesday evening meetings. So I do just want to put out there for everybody, this is a friendly voice saying that I think a lot of certain elements that are brought up that are being expressed, it's not in an effort to put down or make people feel that they need to be quiet. It's just some difficult requirements that need to be followed from a town level. So I do just want to remind everybody of that. And I want to make myself available for the assistance for, when this is all able to come together. So just being the rule person, but thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Jessica, please go ahead.
Oh, this is Jessica. What I wanted to ask was, I recall that last time we discussed making a statement of diversity, inclusion, and equity, that someone brought up that perhaps we should check with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. And I didn't quite understand at the time if whoever brought that up is here, is that what would be the purpose to check with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns? Because I'd be quite willing to do that. I just wouldn't know what we're asking them.
Well, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns is basically they're a group of lawyers that help all the towns in the state deal with any kind of legal issues and et cetera. And they're our best resource for direction on most items that deal with the state.
Right. So they would have
they
examples
usually
of possible
set
statements.
Yes.
All right. Because I'm willing to do that.
Okay.
I did a little bit. I know that Kristen and I were discussing this at some point. I did a little looking into the Vermont's equal opportunity law. And I know that Kristen had said it would be a good idea if we put something onto our employment page mentioning that we are an equal opportunity employer, because that actually is required by the state. I looked up what the categories that are protected under Vermont law. So, I mean, we can't discriminate in hiring against people in quite a number of categories. And I had them up here. I'll just read off who we can't discriminate against in hiring. We can't discriminate based on race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, place of birth, crime victim status, age, or disability. So in our equal employment statement that we put on our website, we could either, I'm thinking there are two ways that we could do it. One, we could list off all those categories that are protected by Vermont law and say that we don't discriminate in employment and hiring and whatever the language is for it against all those. Or we could say that we're an equal opportunity employer and don't discriminate against any of the protected categories via Vermont and federal law. And then we could probably link to the Vermont and federal law, which would be shorter. But I think I don't really have a preference for which one we would do, but that was what I've been looking that up these past couple days. Was that basically what you found as well, Kristen?
Yes, this is Kristen. I found the same thing. So I think that that's either one are wonderful, and it would be, with the select board support, it would be an easy, efficient, and I think something that we should already have on the website, and a great ample step.
Well, I propose that somebody look into that and make a proposal for next time about which one we should do. Maybe look at what other towns have. Do you want to do that, Kristen, or should I?
Yeah, this is Kristen. So I've done already some research into it.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I was in HR for a number of years in corporate human resources. So I think it's an expectation that personally, I don't feel that it requires too much additional research. And I think it's a motion that could be acted upon this evening if the board felt prepared to do so. A motion made to add an equal opportunity employer statement, at the very least, to our employment page for starters. That's just my personal feeling, rather than kicking the conversation to another another week.
I love getting things done. So you have a prepared statement that would work?
There is a statement on the Vermont Department of Labor website, which we could quite easily pull. And I would be happy to send that all to the board. I believe I've already done so in one group email way back when, but I'd be happy to resend that just so that everybody could be aware and you could all reply to me individually to stay in accordance with open meeting law requirements. And from there, it would just be a quick shoot of an email over to Sean Ruck, our web coordinator, and it would probably be on within a day or two.
Well, I like that quite a lot. This is Jessica. I move that we add an equal opportunity employment statement to our webpage.
Okay, Jessica has a motion on the floor. Would somebody like to second that motion?
Don will second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion made and second to add the equal opportunity and employment statement to our webpage. All in favor? Rich?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Thank you. Anything else, Jessica?
Let me look at my notes. Nope, those were the two things I had about the diversity and inclusivity. I will just add that I think it would be great if the select board made an official committee to do this. I had assumed that the select board was not making an official committee because the select board really wasn't particularly interested in this. And that was why other people were gathering. But and I didn't want to propose a motion that would then get shot down to make such a committee. But if it seems that the board would like a committee to be made to draft a diversity, inclusivity, and equity statement, I would be happy to propose such a motion. It's just, since I'm new, I don't want to be a person who like brings stuff up and then it just gets shot down.
Okay. Sarah, you had a hand up again?
To have a committee like of citizens, like the town advertises it on their website, and anyone who wants to show up can show up, but it's not a meeting that is run by the select board. Like, does it have to be warned if it's can the select board or the town start a committee like we're talking about and have meetings that are just more discussion meetings? Does it have to be a warned meeting?
Where's Frank? He's the expert on open meeting law.
Now, a group of concerned citizens could meet and have a discussion as long as there were not 3 select board members present.
But what if the select board members were just there as citizens?
If there was 3 there, it would violate the open meeting law. It would have to be a warned meeting if if 3 or more select board members were present.
Well, what would be the best way to have this? Because I just feel like there's a lot of discussion that needs to happen, and learning and sharing of ideas. So I'm just wondering what the best structure would be.
Well, I definitely feel that there needs to be more consideration given and more investigation from a select board standpoint, how to form that committee properly, et cetera.
Okay, well, just does everybody have any ideas of the select board?
This is Kristen. May I offer something?
Yes, Kristen.
I think somebody needs to own it. So there needs to be an individual who is prepared to put in the time and the energy and the attention to own the committee. And that person could be a select board member as a citizen, or that person could not be a select board member, but somebody needs to own the organization, I believe, of the committee. And when that happens, that would be the person who says, this is the Zoom link, this is the agenda, or, however formal or informal they would like it to be. But when that happens, when somebody can own it, we could then, get it on the town website, and there could be a go-to point person for those that are interested in having that info. But I think in order to get the information out there, there needs to be somebody that wants to establish the existence of the group and be kind of the keeper of the organization.
That sounds very correct to me. Thank you. Keith, you had your hand up? Do you still have your hand up?
Yes, we're backing way up now though, but I was the one that suggested VLCT be contacted. And I have some information I'll pass to you, Jessica.
Sure, that would be great.
They actually have a member on the governor's committee. The League of Cities and Towns does, and that's where we will, they're gonna deal with this at least 246 times. So, because that's how many organized towns are in Vermont. So it's probably a good idea to stay in touch with them. And when I talked to them, they said currently it was an evolving situation. So you can get started and they'll provide sample language, which I believe they have one out already. And I will get you the information because it'll be the Municipal Assistance Center that you want to deal with. And they also will provide the training that Maureen spoke of earlier.
So, thank you, Keith. Was the idea then, when they said it was an evolving situation, was the idea that guidance was going to come down from the state about how towns are supposed to do this?
As this further develops, there'll be more and more information. And, with the governor's appointment of somebody to lead that committee and then getting committee members involved at the state level, and that trickle down effect to the towns is probably what the town of Pawlet should use as guidance, and it doesn't mean that you can't adopt something now. And then as things change, you may want to change your language or add to it. But their explanation to me was that it currently was an evolving situation, and it was nothing was set in stone yet, and so they're going forward with it, but it'll be day to day as things develop now that they're well organized and going forward. So.
Can I say something? Because I have information that adds to that conversation.
Okay, Maureen.
The governor last year appointed a director of racial equity. Her name is Susanna Davis. So there is an official appointment to address these issues at both state level. I just linked in the chat for everybody a document that I know that I've shared with, I shared it with the select board quite a while ago. I'm not sure you all had the chance to look at it, but that was created by the state of Vermont, including Susanna Davis, who participated in that for municipalities to look at and see what we can do to, as far as community engagement goes in this specific topic. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in this and wants to learn more to take a look at that. You can save the chat on your computer. If you hit, I think, file, save, you can save this chat on your computer. So then the link will be saved. And then it does in this document specifically mention the Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
Thank you. Dan Brooks, you had a hand up?
Yes, thanks, Mike. Can you hear me?
Yes.
First, I'd like to thank you all for your service and what you're all. I'm new to town meetings and haven't been involved in this at all, so I apologize if we missed something at the last meeting about this inclusivity stuff. I don't know if it was discussed at the last meeting. I didn't get the minutes or really know how to, but so I apologize if I am missing anything that happened in between, but I'm curious why this seems to be so contentious and so difficult. I think there was, somebody read at the meeting on the 23rd that the town of Brandon, where our son and daughter-in-law live, they adopted a inclusivity statement that seems like it's pretty well done. And I don't see why there needs to be like all this work put into this. It's already been done. Why can't we just adopt one that's been done by another town that's working? And Brandon doesn't seem to have fell into rubble or anything since they did theirs. And I just don't see why it has to be this contentious and this difficult to figure this out. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Julie?
Hi, this is Julie. I just kind of want to echo again what Keith brought up. I mean, anything that the board crafts would be shared through VLCT before it was adopted, I would assume. All of my policies are model policies from the VLCT that I worked to fit my office and shared with them. They are our go-to. We pay membership fees to them for this. This is what they do. They're going to be doing this work, as Keith said. So I just think if we wanted to do something like Dan suggested, which is to take an already operational statement, or if we wanted to create our own very simple statement that we would adopt, it is not set in stone that this policy would never be changed. And it is likely going to be something that comes down through the state. VLCT will work with us on that, and then we'll get there. I don't think there needs to be a huge rush on this. And I think VLCT is a great place to ask about any structure of a committee that the town is essentially sanctioning it. I can't imagine that they would recommend us sanctioning a committee to work on something on behalf of the select board that excludes people based on their education. I just don't think that that would happen. And I think it's important that we keep in mind that you as a board have a job that you as a board have to do, and any committee that does work that then reports to you is simply giving you information, and then you are going to act on it in your capacity as select board members. So anything that the select board puts out, regardless of who drafted it, if you put it out, it's yours. So you will need to do the work and make sure that the work is done right. And that cannot be replaced by any other committee that is doing any work outside of you as a board.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. Paul Talander had your hand up, or Michelle?
Nope, I'm good, thanks. Julie pretty much said it all for me.
Okay, thank you.
I am aware that Brandon is doing a lot of work on on tightening up their bylaws and working on that inclusion. So you might want to get maybe a template from them and then do what Julie said, because she's correct. Thank you.
Okay, I think we need to wrap up the conversation on this inclusion for now.
Yes,
Jessica?
I want to wrap up by saying what I'm going to do. Between now and next meeting, I will contact Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and I will see where they are at and what kind of model statements they have and what they know about what might be coming down from the state. And then with whatever they have, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't make a motion at the next meeting or the meeting after that to approve something simple. I mean, I agree with what, oh man, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Person who was new and hadn't been at meetings before. Was it Rob or Bob? Anyhow,
Dan.
Dan, it was Dan, yes. That it shouldn't be difficult. We could just find something that works. We could vote on it, vote it up, or vote it down, and go from there. So yeah, I agree that we should move on. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Harley, you had a question, and then we'll call this the last question.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is to the select board. This is a values statement, and value statements can be pretty plain vanilla, or they can be divisive. Has the select board, the Pawlet Select Board in the history of Pawlet, ever released or drafted a values statement? Over.
The town plan is full of value statements.
Okay. It would certainly take more research before I could answer that question, Harley. So.
I'd like to, I know that we all want to go. I want to go also, but I want to add one more thing that, when I said that I want it to be an educated group of people, it's, when somebody's talking about farming, I'm going to be quiet and listen because I do actually have a bit of a farming background, so maybe that's not the best example, but somebody's talking about cow farming, I'm going to be quiet and listen because there are people who are more educated about cow farming than I am. So, when people are doing work, when it comes to equity work, anti-racist work, homophobic, anti-transphobic work, it's important that the people who are developing policy sanctioned by the town are knowledgeable in this work in order to prevent harm doing. And
thank you.
That's what I'm saying when I want everybody to be included. People can become educated, but it needs to be informed work.
Okay, I think we get it. Thank you. Is there any other old or unfinished business?
This is Kristen. Did John or Val Davis might have had their hand up?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't see every picture. So
no, that's why I'm here.
John, do you have a?
Yes, I do. I have a question for Miss Van Wert.
Ms. Brown.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Miss Van Wert, can I ask you how long you have lived in Pawlet?
Yes, I've lived in Pawlet for just over 3 years.
And you've been appointed the chairman of the Planning Commission, I believe.
Yes, I was appointed to the Planning Commission this past summer. And well, on the first meeting that we had, I was elected as chair. Yes, no one else wanted to do it.
You were then elected to the select board also.
Yes.
So do you feel like you haven't been included in town? Is this your feeling that you've been discriminated against in any way? That's pretty welcoming, I would say, to be elected to those who are appointed and elected to those two important positions. Wouldn't you say?
I feel pretty welcomed by most people in town.
Most people?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't feel.
I have a question. I'd like to speak to Miss Brown also. Hello, Miss Brown.
I'm listening because you'd like to speak. So.
Okay. My family's lived in Pawlet for 45 years, and we've had people of color live in town, and people of different religions. We have people who are on the liberal side of politics, conservative side of politics. We've seemed to all have gotten along pretty well without more committees and more kicking the can down the road. And I'm about this white privilege that you keep talking about. Have you driven down some of the back roads in Vermont and upstate New York and seen white privilege in a lot of places? You have, huh? This isn't Chittenden County, and this isn't the Upper Valley. Vermont's a poor state for the most part. And a lot of people working hard and struggle because we're overtaxed, for one thing. Go ahead, shrug. I know you don't want to listen to me.
I'm not
but you're not open-minded. And another thing, you owe the Hewlett family and Richie especially an apology, because you know nothing about them, and you made
I think this
statements.
needs to stop. This is a
that-
personal
no.
attack and this is not appropriate.
Well, I'm not talking to you. Excuse me.
No,
I'm
this
not
needs
talking.
to stop. This is a
You
personal
don't
attack.
say that Richie
we
Hewlett
need to
has a
stay on
silver
point.
spoon in his mouth. The Hewlett family are the hardest working families in town, and they're self-made. They didn't get anything for nothing. And they've been here for generations. So don't try to tell us how we should have to live.
Okay, John, could you wrap up your statement, please?
I will. Thank you, Mike.
I'd like
Thank
to
you.
respond. Nope, I'd like to respond.
We're gonna stop this right now.
Nope, I have the I should have the
We're gonna
opportunity.
stop this right now. We've gone on with this conversation
Oh,
for
you
quite a
want
long
that?
time,
James, say
and
something.
everybody has had a chance to
You
share
let
their
him
side of
talk.
the story.
Let Maureen respond.
Yep, you let him talk, and so now I get the opportunity to talk. So what
You've
I'm
been
saying,
talking all night.
what I'm seeing is a really
You have been talking all night, Maureen. This conversation is over. This part of this meeting is done.
Just talk.
No.
But
Vicky,
the
I
response
do
that
not,
I'm seeing is
no,
a
I
really
will not
common
have any more
response.
discussion about this subject tonight.
I think this is a good illustration of why the town should just look at what other towns have done.
This
and not
subject is
drag
now
this.
over.
Okay, thank you.
If we choose to still try to push it, I will have you removed from the meeting. Okay, is there any other old or unfinished business to come before the meeting tonight?
It's disgusting. That is disgusting.
Okay, we received a letter from Michelle Thailander that she's looking for some responses. And I do have some responses for her tonight. Would you please read that letter, please, Kristen?
Michelle, would you like to read the letter since you are here this evening? This is Kristen, in an interest of time.
Hey there.
Okay. Hi, Michelle.
Yeah, I do have it in front of me, I guess. Yep, okay. You want me to read that?
Yes, please.
Okay, I did start it out with "We the citizens of West Pawlet, of the West Pawlet neighborhood, including Warren Switch Road, Briar Hill Road, and surrounding properties, would like this read at tonight's meeting." And the letter goes, or my letter goes, "As concerned citizens and taxpayers of Pawlet, Vermont, we pose the following questions to the select board members concerning the property located at 541 Briar Hill Road, West Pawlet, owned by Daniel Barnier and commonly referred to as Slate Ridge. We request a definitive answer, including short-term timeframes of action, due to the nature of the daily threat that this property, its owner, and its associates have imposed upon our personal safety, and to the negative impact on property values of all Pawlet homeowners. When are we, the neighbors residing in West Pawlet, as well as the children and the staff of the Medway Community School and neighboring business personnel, going to feel safe from the threat of harm and bullet trajectory originating from this property?
You shouldn't have said thank you.
So then I asked, please clarify definitively and give a time frame for action concerning the following questions. And if you cannot answer the question or give a time frame, please state a contact that can. There are 4 questions. The first question is, has the select board asked Attorney Merrill Bent to initiate foreclosure on the property? And when will this be initiated? Do you have an answer for that?
No, at this time, the board has not requested an invitation for foreclosure. The board chair will discuss whether and when to do this with the town council. And unfortunately, there was no time today from the time I received the letter to when I will discuss this with Merrill.
Right,
I'll set up a time in the near future.
I realize I got it in there quite at the last minute. Second question, has a select board taken action to tax the property at the $1.6 million Mr. Barnier claims he has put into improving the property, in addition to the present assessed value? And when will this be initiated?
This is not a question within the select board's preview, the issue will be assessed by the tax assessor.
Okay. Third question, is the property in arrears of present property taxes? And if so, what is being done to collect these taxes? If not, when will it be initiated?
Well, it is in collections. The process is the same for all properties that are in their arrears. The delinquent tax collector will need to advise to when and that process will start.
Any idea when that process will start?
We'll have to talk to the delinquent tax collector.
Okay, and when might I ask you would initially get to that?
I'll try and have an answer for the next meeting.
Thank you. Final question, considering the recent activities that took place at Slate Ridge touted on social media involve vendors, does the town still consider this a picnic with friends and family? Or does this place the owner in contempt of the recent environmental court order? And if you do not have an answer, who may we contact for one?
Many of the activities reflected in the social media from the event, which took place 2 days ago, do seem to be in violation of the court's orders. A contempt filing is in process.
Thank you. I appreciate your answering that. We thank you for your effort in clarifying these concerns that are not only affect those of us in West Pawlet, but all the taxpayer and property owners here in Pawlet. This affects everybody. Thank you for your time. That's it.
Thank you. Is there any other old or unfinished business to discuss tonight at the meeting?
Yeah, Mike, this is Rich.
Go ahead, Rich.
I just want to give you an update on that property that the town took over in West Pawlet. Clarence Ritchie is going to go in there and clean that up. We've got a certificate of insurance from him. And I have called the propane company and the power company. Propane company is going to come and remove the tanks. And the power company is going to come and disconnect the power right there at the meter.
Okay. That's excellent. Did Clarence give you some idea when he may be able to deal with this project?
Yeah, he was thinking around the first part of May, he should be able to get in there.
Okay, that will be good.
We've just got to put some signs up, to keep people out of there in the meantime. I'll try and get that done the first part of the week.
Okay, that'd be good. Anything else regarding that property?
This is Kristen. I have something.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Did the select board see there was an individual that had emailed the select board? I had forwarded that message along to the group regarding an interested buyer for that property. Just, I should clarify, not looking for a response, but just making sure you're all aware that that is.
Did all you guys see that email from David Brannigan? I had
yes.
a couple phone. Okay, I had a couple phone conversations with him, and I told him that once we were done with the property was clean, we would determine the course of action, and he's very interested in the property. So, as the rules regarding a tax sale are that we sell the property for just what we have in it. If there's any money beyond what the town has, including lawyer fees and documentation and stuff, that would go back to the previous owner. So that's where we stand with that.
Mike, I have a question about that. I don't know, what would we do if more than one person wanted to purchase it at that said price?
I guess we'll have to decide how we want to handle it. If we just want to try and sell it as an outright price, or if we want to have it bid. Quite honestly, we've never been in that situation before, so we'll have to determine that. I guess if we have more interest than just one person, we would have to probably put it up for a sealed bid.
All right, thank you. I was just wondering if that would be the case.
Okay. Sarah Post, you have your hand up. Is that a new issue? Excuse me, I didn't hear that.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry. No, it's not a new issue.
Okay,
Thanks.
so we'll have to come back to that next at the next meeting. And
Thank you.
Mary Ellen Norton,
The same. It's the former issue. Yeah,
okay, so we're done with that topic for tonight.
yes.
Okay, is there any other old or unfinished business? Any new business?
Mike, this is Tom
Yes,
Collins.
Sorry, I looked right by you.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I think I want to clarify, there is interest. I know of interest in that property, so I would encourage the select board to look at a sealed bid.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Is there any new business? Public comment? I see any hands up for public comment? Okay.
Mike, it looks like Sarah Post's hand is raised and Paul or Michelle. Unless, do you not mean to?
Sorry, I'm just having, I didn't raise it. I didn't think, sorry.
Otherwise, this is Kristen. There are several topics that are coming through in the chat bar. And I think that everybody should just take a moment to consider those, whether or not you want to address them.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name's Olivia McChesney. It's my first select board meeting, and I do want to talk about that thing we were just talking about, the diversity, inclusion, and equity topic. When we were protesting on the bridge last summer for Black Lives Matter, I had many people.
Okay, we need to suspend. We're not going to have any more conversation. If you have a comment, you can say it, but you can't get into a long-winded discussion. But looks like you set up your.
You may have froze up.
I think your machine's broken there.
You're muted.
All right, sorry. The app crashed. When we were protesting last summer, we got a really negative response from most people, but I did have a few people of color reach out to me, and also queer folks reach out to me and tell me, like, people that I had been to elementary, middle, and high school with, and voice their support and just tell me how important it was to see their community supporting them, and because they'd never seen that before. And I think that really speaks to a need, and also the tension in this meeting speaks to a need for this to be addressed. And that's all I want to say. It's really, really hard to see people that I've known and looked up to my whole life have such a negative reaction to something that should be positive. That's that.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mike, this is Rich. I'll make that motion.
Okay, Rich made a motion. Do I have a second to that motion? John, it looks like he made a motion. He's still muted.
I'll make a motion, or I'll second the motion.
Second the motion. Okay, all in favor? Rich,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
All right, motion adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.